I thought that was The Rock for a second, and I was like,
It
bold
does. It
choice.
does look like the
Don't
Rock.
disrespect him.
Well, no, it was just because it was your head was blocking his
Yeah, that's
head,
fair.
and I just saw the bald head. Star
So,
of
so
star of a future A24 movie, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is not present at this recording, unfortunately. And also, unfortunately, neither is Dave Bautista, which is kind of sad. I know you're always disappointed when he doesn't make an appearance, but the invitation is always out there, Dave. Open
Yeah,
invite to the pod.
he never responds to my DMs on Instagram, so kind of disappointed. Whoever his social media person is, they got to figure it out, man. He could get a lot more exposure on this channel, I think.
Yeah, I think his lawyer has sent you a couple letters, but that's unrelated.
We don't talk about those, but yeah.
I think something to address here, Korbin, is I think you automatically assumed every bulk bald man is Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I was gonna say that a little baldest, I think.
It's kind of messed up.
Well, speaking for my future self, I do hope, everyone assumes I'm the Dwayne The Rock Johnson when I walk down the street. So I can, I'll make those assumptions where I can.
I was going to recommend some sensitivity training for you, but never mind after that.
One of us. I'll say hello and welcome back to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, the show where two former roommates talk about Knock at the Cabin.
My name's Leonard. Well, it's nice to meet you, Webb.
Why are you here?
I suppose I'm here to make friends with you. And your dad's too. But my heart is broken.
Why is it broken?
Because of what I have to do today.
There I see a woman carrying something that looks like a pick with a chain and a mallet head.
You see, the four of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world. We were called and are united by a common vision, which has now become a command that we cannot ignore. The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse. Your family has been chosen to make a horrible decision. If you fail to choose, the world will end.
As always, I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel, and joining me is my co-host, Kody Webb. Kody, what's going on, my man?
I'm very excited to be here. Should be a great episode. Knock, knock.
Ooh, who's there?
Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, who?
That's it. It's the apocalypse.
Wow, that's beautiful. Poetic. And this movie deserves a poetic and shocking answer to that question of knock, knock. And of course, I'll throw it over to you. Knock, knock to our guest, Austin Nightenhelser. Welcome back, Austin. What's going on, my guy?
Nothing much. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you guys inviting me out. I'm going to crank out a pod.
Glad to have you back.
Shout out to Austin. I'm very excited to have him back on. If you hadn't checked out his first episode, which was one of my favorites, Ender's Game, it was probably a couple seasons ago now, but I like the segment where we're bringing back some of our favorite, reoccurring guests. So big ups to Austin for coming back, but I think you picked a better movie than Ender's Game this time, so I'm excited to talk about it.
I miss Butterball. Throwback to whatever season that was.
Yeah.
Austin, you've been on the podcast a few different times. Of course, also another former DeHart draftee. You tried to defend your land with Jacob Hughes. Not the other Jacob Hughes. We've had many Jacob Hughes on this podcast, but you were there for that. I think you made an appearance on the One Night One Pod episode as well. So you're a seasoned vet, but glad to have you back to discuss a movie that I think is better than Ender's Game. I think we can all agree.
I don't think there's any debate in that, really. Yeah, 100%.
I'm not a huge fan of this one, but I can definitely say it's better than what Haley Steinfeld and the Butter Boy and Harrison Ford put together in that picture. Another book adaptation, Austin, you love your book adaptations, it seems. Why did you want to talk about this movie specifically?
Why me? Why did you pick me?
So I would say very specifically, deep down, being a young boy, grew up with the WWE, came to be quite fond of Mr. Dave Batista. As you can see his lovely face behind me. Also, along with that, I'm a real big horror, kind of like Halloween movie kind of thing. And this kind of fits the theme. Like when you see how it was advertised and when it kind of came out, it was more that kind of thing, you know, thriller, suspense kind of movie. So I remember watching it. I think the first time I watched it was the night of Halloween. Really fit the book for me. And then I watched like probably 4 or 5 other movies that night. So I had to rewatch it. Just love Dave Batista. I didn't know that Ron Weasley was in it until I watched the movie, but that was another highlight for me. Not a fan of Harry Potter, but Ron Weasley's a dog.
Shout out Roop. Yeah. It's definitely, like you said, it's not quite a pure horror, but it's a genre piece, and it's directed by M. Night Shyamalan. And I think it's like he's almost his own genre in a certain way, and there's a certain style and feeling to a lot of his movies. This one is different than many, but also it has this through line that you can see in other movies similar to like Signs, or just where, you know, it's very heavily based in faith, and, you know, maybe it's about something else, and then, you know, it reveals to be, you know, something else. But I'm really glad you wanted to talk about this one. I want to talk some crap. And also I did read the book that it was based on.
Oh wow!
Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, and I brought the book. Last week we had Mina on, or 2 episodes ago we had Mina on to talk Hunger Games, and she was the literary expert. Well, hey, it's me today, fellas. Watch out.
I'm scared. Yeah, I think Mina was definitely a good medium where she wanted to talk about like the book and the movie. I feel like Korbin's going to come in this week and just talk about the book. But, should be interesting. I don't think we've ever had that before, where Korbino has read a book before. So props to you for reading a book. I definitely would never have done that. But yeah, shout out.
I was telling Austin before this, I really had a goal of reading more this year. And I started off really strong with 2 books that were movies. One of them, Hellraiser, a classic, you know, 80 horror movie. I read the book that was based on. First, watched the movie, really enjoyed it. Then I did this, and then I was on Killers of the Flower Moon, read about 60 pages of that, got caught up in the baseball season, and I saw it when it came out in October. And Marty, you're a genius, but I don't know what happened in the book. So basically, 2024 is the year of more reading and more literary analysis by me coming soon. Kody, do you remember when you first watched this film?
Do you remember? I do recall. This was actually my first watch of the film. Also, I mean, it is a 2023 release, I believe, right?
It is. Came out earlier this year.
Yeah, so it was released this year. I missed it in theaters. I'd say in general, I'm not like the biggest M. Night fan, so it wasn't something I was like clamoring to go see. But yeah, I caught it on Amazon Prime. Nice little watch, only like hour 50, hour 45. So decent little runtime, but I had a good experience. Nothing out of the ordinary. I did watch it at night, so I feel like that added a little bit of ambiance. That was pretty nice. But I had a pretty positive experience, yeah.
I did see this movie when it came out in theaters, and something that I wanted to ask both of you, since Austin, you already brought this up that you watched this on Halloween in pairing with some other horror movies. I had kind of like a weird triple feature the day I saw this. It was Saturday, February 4th. I think the weekend it came out, or maybe like the weekend after, where I saw 3 movies. And I saw Plane, the Gerard Butler like B movie at 12:45 in the morning. Caught that, and then 4:45 in the afternoon I saw Knock at the Cabin, went to the Alamo Draft House, had some chicken tenders, I'm sure, and then I night capped it with this movie Tokyo Drifter, which I do have to get right. Let me get the year on this one. It's not the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. It's 1966 Tokyo Drifter by Shinjin Suzuki, which I saw at the Japan Society in New York. I believe it was on 35 millimeter film. This movie is like got crazy set design, intense, just like crazy choreography. And it's about just this guy who like really just kind of goes around and sings and like is like moody. It's super weird and funny, but crazy production design. And that was my triple feature. So I want to see how it compares to the first time you guys watched it. I guess Austin, you start. What else did you see on Halloween?
What else did I see on Halloween?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw Smile with I think that Kevin Bacon's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually I probably enjoyed that a little bit more than I should have. I'm really bad with movie names. It was the new Insidious, or I think with the Red Door. Isn't that that series?
Oh yeah,
Watch that
Insidious
movie.
Chapter 4.
Yeah.
We did an episode in relation to that. We did the first Insidious, and
Mhm.
what'd you think of Chapter 4?
I'm probably never gonna get an MRI machine because of it.
Horror movies and MRI machines are a tried and true method. It was the Red Door, in fact, was the title of that film. Wow, yeah. What the kid from the original obviously was grown up, and he was okay in it. I thought not bad, but overall the story was just pretty lame, and it wasn't really scary.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anything else?
I watched Lights Out because my sister's like terrified of the dark and that kind of thing. So the movie was fine. It's just funny to watch how scared she got, to be honest. I think that wrapped up Halloween.
Shout out to Ashley for getting scared. I don't think I'm familiar with this one, so this one might get added to the list. Lights Out.
Hey, Ashley, potential pod.
Talk about how scared
Parents?
she is. Hey, we're always ready to rep some horror on the podcast. Cody's
Facts.
usually not seen it. And Kody, did you have any movies to pair Knock with?
I don't think I did. No, because I watched it yesterday, the day before we were recording this, and the day before that, I binged like 3 movies.
You've been on the grind lately.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the end of the episode.
I haven't watched. I've been trying to catch up with a bunch of the stuff I've missed this year as well. So this was a kind of a great pairing, kind of to go right along with that. I think after I watched this, I was like, all right, let's just settle down the rest of the day, watch some Survivor, which I'll talk about later too. But I did watch Survivor after I watched this. So yeah, shout out.
There you go. That is kind of the perfect pairing, actually, more than anything else, I'd say. Let's get into our initial thoughts.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Kody, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
I'd love to kick us off. And honestly, I just want to talk about like the premise off the bat a little bit.
Sure.
Just because, I mean, it's almost the entire movie in a sense, but I think the way they set it up is maybe not the best. I don't love the first half hour, if I'm being honest. Just because the opening, like Dave Bautista scene where he's talking to the little girl, I think that's okay. It's like you don't really know what's going on, but you're getting a little bit of information. The fact that his character's name is Leonard kind of just throws me off.
Lenny, dude.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of weird. And then
is his name really Leonard, Kody? That's the question.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I would assume probably, but I don't even know. But basically, it gets to like the 30-minute mark where we get to the point where it's revealed that, and I guess spoiler for this whole episode, but who cares? But obviously, like I said off the top, like they're trying to prevent the apocalypse in a sense. In order to prevent the apocalypse, they have one of these 3 people has to die basically in this tight-knit family. So I think like the premise is interesting, but also like strange, where you're kind of questioning, what's going on throughout the entire movie, which I think that specifically is really effective. And also the fact that like this is a 1 location movie in a sense, just the fact that it kind of kept me intrigued and engaged throughout. I was almost surprised, just like how tight the script is in a sense. But I want to ask you guys, like, what do you think about like the apocalyptic sort of premise? Do you think it's a little bit too slow? What's kind of your overall thoughts? I'll shoot it to you, Austin. What do you like? What do you think about the movie in general?
If it wasn't specifically, again, spoilers, said that these 4 characters coming together.
Spoiler alert for this whole movie. If you haven't seen it, it is not a twist movie necessarily in the way that many other M. Night Shyamalan movies are, but it is still one that you do not want to have spoiled. So if you haven't seen it, it's available to stream on Prime. Definitely go check it out before we get into anything. Sorry to interrupt you there, Austin.
No, all good. But yeah, I if it wasn't specifically said for me, I wasn't going to make the realization that the 4 people coming together were the Knights of the Apocalypse, whatnot.
Horsemen.
Yeah, the 4 horsemen. But once it was announced and they kind of said like each horseman, it made sense based on how the characters were acting. Movie in general, I thought Dave Bautista did a really good job. It's kind of refreshing to see this big bulky dude play Drax that comes from wrestling, who has range, is able to play more than one guy. Cough, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He plays the same character every movie, it seems. So,
and all his contemporaries, John Cena as well. Like it's. Yeah, the wrestler to actor. I mean, obviously, Kody and I have made jokes aplenty about Dave Bautista, and Kody especially has cast him in many things on this podcast in the past. But like, he truly is a guy who's worked with the most interesting directors of any like wrestler turned actor, and also like, tried to pursue the most interesting type roles. And obviously I made the joke at the top of this where like Dwayne The Rock Johnson is starring in an A24 movie, but that's a joke. That's the thing. It's like it's not even serious. It doesn't even mean anything. But like, Dave Bautista is legitimately trying to do interesting things. He's in, obviously Blade Runner 2049, and then continued that on with Denis Villeneuve and Dune Part 2. He's throwing in the weird comedies. He's doing dumb stuff like Super and My Spy, but also being in big blockbusters like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and pursuing fun stuff with directors like M. Night Shyamalan, a seasoned actor who takes people, Bruce Willis, like at the heights of their careers, and does fun stuff with them. I think he's making incredible moves, and I think this is an awesome movie to see him in at the very least.
I agree completely. Obviously, I'm a Dave stan from the beginning here, but I mean, like Austin said, I feel like wrestlers aren't really known for their range. So the fact that Dave Bautista can kind of, I mean, in my opinion, I think he carries the movie mostly just through his performance.
It has to be carried on him.
Yeah, I mean, his character is obviously kind of in the forefront here. So the fact that like he was so believable the entire movie, I think is a real testament to like his actual acting ability, which again, I feel like you don't really see in other wrestlers. So I think he is truly one of a kind in a sense, which is cool.
I think it's really interesting, like you said, Kody, the one setting thing. I'm actually surprised that you said you don't like the first 30 minutes of this movie, because I kind of feel opposite, where like I think it really rips pretty hard in the first 30 minutes. Like the opening scene, I mean, you've got like Dave Bautista walking out right away, and it's like it's in the face. This shit's starting. We're in it, and then from there it kind of loses me. And then even by the end, I'm really all just like out on like the message of the movie and what it is, and like I just think it's not for me. But I think there's some really interesting stuff. I also know that there's like 2 cinematographers on this movie, and they shot some things chronologically. So I think even like some of the styling of the first half feels different than some of the other, like the camera moves and the choices. I really think up until that, Ron Weasley death, things feel so drastically different. And I like that portion of the movie, and then things change. So that's interesting to see the differing opinions.
Yeah. I think maybe for me, it was just like, it felt like it was dragging a little bit in the beginning. Like the whole, like them introducing themselves was just like, are we ever going to get to the point here? Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I just want a little bit of answers for some of the stuff. But yeah, I think the performances are great, and it does pick up kind of as it goes along a little bit. So like I said, it's not a very long movie, so I guess pacing isn't that big of an issue. Yeah, I don't know. Like Dave just like walking out of the woods at the beginning, I was kind of like, it's kind of cringe a little bit. But like you said, I mean, regardless. Other than that, too, the other thing I want to touch on here was the title of the movie, which goes along with you, Mr. Book Boy. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts. But I think, in a sense, why they changed it from the exact book title is because of the movie Cabin in the Woods, and kind of just like the similarity to those things. I don't think Cabin in the Woods is like the most well-known movie of all time. It's one of my personal like horror comedy favorites, sort of weird genre blend kind of movie. Yeah, I think that definitely affected like them renaming it in a sense, which I think is funny. But what do you think about that, Corbino?
Yeah, I don't really mind the change too much, because something I do want to highlight is that the ending of the book and pivotal plot points in the book are vastly different from things that happen in the movie. And have either of you guys heard or looked into that at all before I get into it?
I did a little bit. It's like different deaths at the end, I believe, and stuff.
Yeah. So the thing about the book is, I'm gonna read to you what happens, and going into an excerpt. Yeah, we're gonna hit an excerpt. We're gonna go to page 186 of the text. And this is a 260-page book, so this lets you know that there's still a lot to happen after this. Andrew and Leonard are fighting. This is the scene where he's had the gun. They brought it into the house. They're fighting. Boom. He pops back upright and vigorously attempts to shake the gun free, yanking Andrew's arms up and down and side to side. And then Wynn doesn't see or hear or feel anything anymore.
Oh.
And then the next chapter or like section of the book is called Bloody Like the Day You Were Born. And essentially they have shot and killed the little girl, and that is not even deemed a good enough sacrifice in the terms of the book. So like they still then have the moral quandary of your daughter was just shot and killed and you have to deal with that, but also still one of you has to sacrifice yourself and make that decision or the world is going to end. It then goes on further and different things happen, but you could not make a movie with that. Like you could, but it would not be a movie that people that would make any money or anybody would go see. It would be like hated, right? Like if that happened in this, like you cannot have the daughter just get shot and killed in an accident. And it works in a novel, or maybe even it doesn't work in certain ways. I'm sure there's some people that really hate it. I obviously don't love that as a plot point, but I think the end that it gets to, that I'm going to talk about later in the episode, and the kind of the message that it has versus the message of this movie is one that I connect with more personally. And that is something I think that's interesting about this movie, is that you can have a lot of different readings about it, whether you're a very religious person or not, or with your own sexuality and like the feelings that would affect the way you see this movie, and two gay characters kind of being put into this position. And also even like if you're a person who does or doesn't have kids, you're going to see this movie differently when it's a family being put in this position to make this impossible moral decision, this moral quandary, this basically like terrible twisted version of like a trolley problem, where you have to decide, to kill one of your own people, one of your own family members to survive. So it's an interesting one, and it's interesting to see the way Shyamalan has changed things.
I think like my perspective, being like not a very religious person, like a straight guy, a Dave Bautista fan. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like everybody's gonna have their own perspective in a sense, but I do think it's funny. Like I enjoy this movie, even though I come from definitely not kind of the demo audience, I think, in a sense. And then going back to kind of the kills, and obviously killing the daughter would be extremely, extremely dark. I think you could do that. I don't know if a director like M. Night is the right person to do that, because I don't think he's ever kind of gone that like crazy dark in a movie.
It's so cynical. Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it would probably make the story a little bit more interesting, just because like the daughter character specifically, I feel like kind of gets lost in the third act a little bit. But that is interesting. I think it's a good change for the movie adaptation, like you said, just from an audience standpoint and a money-making standpoint. But I don't know if like from a story perspective, that is the best move, honestly.
I just wanted to speak more on Wynn, the little girl. I think one of my biggest issues with the movie is the entire time it's the four guys are coming and saying, you guys have to make a decision as a family. You need to choose one person to sacrifice. So we get to the third act. Andrew and Eric are there fighting. Eric then decides that he's going to be the one to die, and Andrew agrees. But the whole time we didn't get any input from Wynn. So
you're right.
Really, it wasn't a decision, so it shouldn't count. In my opinion.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, it's like this thing of they kind of like have to sideline her and like remove her from the story because she's not really supposed to be there. And like, they could have done whatever they wanted, but like, it's just like they push her out and then can just bring her back in just to save her and let her be safe. When it's like this, the thing is like, you went for it. You went for the message has to be human sacrifice for the good or the betterment of all humanity. Like that's at the end of this movie, that's what it's saying. Right. Mm-hmm. So you got to go all in on that, right? In some regard. And I agree. It kind of cops out on you there.
Also, too, I mean, they set up the little girl, like in that opening scene where you're saying, they set her up as like a pretty sharp, little girl. So she's having like legitimate conversations, like about some serious stuff. I feel like Dave Bautista, like what she wants to do when she grows up. So just like excluding her from some of the more important stuff, I feel like is a weird choice.
I think kind of going with that, her playing with the grasshoppers at the beginning, it's kind of some parallels there where she's kind of playing God with grasshoppers, and we see the rest of the movie, Leonard's kind of being the hand of God with the family.
Well, yeah, I mean, he steps in. He's this even larger force grabbing the grasshoppers. Absolutely. It's a great metaphor to start things up. The bottled people, cage people stuck in this cabin where there's a knock. This movie is rated R, but it's very selective with the ways that it shows violence, which I think is pretty interesting. It's not graphic, but it is it's grounded, I would say. It feels very visceral and real in a certain way. And I like the way it's kind of edited together in that the way it cuts with the different people killing themselves throughout. What do you guys think about that?
It's not crazy gory, like you said. I mean, specifically the Ron Weasley death scene, I feel like it's maybe the most graphic of all the kills. But it doesn't like kind of lean into that super hard R. But I think just its themes and stuff, it has to be R a little bit, just because there's so much death and stuff. But I thought the visuals for like the apocalypse stuff was actually pretty decent. I would assume the budget on this film was not the highest of M. Night
I think
Shyamalan's
it's
career.
20 mil is like
Yeah.
where he's kind of just working right now.
So, I mean, effects wise on that budget, that's not bad. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, since it's mostly a one location shoot, like it's probably easy to divvy out some of that money to more of the graphics department. But yeah, for like an R-rated movie, I don't think it went like out of control for any reason, really.
Did the story for both you guys go in a direction you expected? Were you see it all coming, or did you find it to be twisty? Austin, you can go first.
Once they finally introduce themselves and they kind of give their shtick on what's happening, kind of just watching movies and knowing normal storylines, like ultimately, they're going to keep declining, and something's going to happen to where somebody's going to end up sacrificing themselves. I figured it'd be something like trying to save the daughter. So like ultimately, it kind of approached what I was thinking rather than like I was expecting a bigger twist, but it was still good. I mean, I still respect
the thing
what
is,
happened.
it's like the twist is almost that it is real. It's like no, it's actually like this is all just straightforward at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Honestly, that's my favorite part of this movie. Like you said, I mean, it is almost ultra realistic in a sense, coming from the family characters, just because like, and I don't know if you guys do this too, but I kind of put myself in their situation. Like, do I believe these people? Like, first off, I don't really
I wanted
buy
to ask you, would you believe this? If this...
Fuck no. Am I crazy? No. I mean, come on, this is insane shit here.
Well, the thing is, like, think about the news, especially, right? They're constantly showing these like news reports, and it's like an interesting commentary of like, think about our news cycle for the past couple of years. Like, we see crazy shit like this all the time. What would it take? What would you have to see on the news to like actually believe that this shit is real? Like, is it until the planes start falling, or even then, or you're like, kind of a normal Tuesday? Like, because there's a viral outbreak in this, but fuck, we've seen that. There's earthquakes, but like countries in our lifetime have been decimated by tsunamis. Just because it hasn't happened on the mainland USA doesn't mean it's not out of the like these things just happen. It's not necessarily the apocalypse, or are we living in the apocalypse? That's kind of the interesting thing about this.
I mean, we probably are, but like you're saying, I mean, I feel like just in the media age, I don't believe anything I see online, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah.
I think the point for me in the movie, or I'd be like, oh, this is probably true, is when they were outside and they saw like a plane actually drop out of the sky. Like at that point, I was like, oh, it might be real. Maybe we need to do something about it. But I think that's the beauty of it as well, is like it keeps you guessing if this is real, is this bullshit. The one character, Andrew, is kind of obviously, I feel like he would, like, I would act pretty similar to him here. Be like, you guys are full of shit. Like, you guys probably just, film this 5 minutes before and you're timing it up when you're turning the TV on. Like, they do know exactly what they're doing the entire time. They're trying to be as effective as possible in convincing them that this is real. But I feel like them trying so hard also would be like, yeah, like this is complete bullshit. So I think that's the beauty of this movie coming from M. Night Shyamalan. Just because all his other shit, it's some stupid bullshit twist at the end that you're like, yeah, I saw that coming. Like we knew something was coming the entire time. But, and this is leaning into my good heavily here, but I think what makes this movie actually really good is the fact that M. Night finally didn't have to do a major twist. The major twist is almost like there is no twist. This is just real life. Like this is actually happening. And I think that was jarring for me after seeing a lot of other M. Night's movies. And usually, it's okay throughout. And then we get to the end and it's either really good or it's really, really bad. So I thought it was cool. Like he actually went a different direction and just made a normal movie for once, which I didn't see coming.
Just thinking of how they were approached with the situation, I thought Andrew made a lot of good points. And I was convinced that, these are just some weirdos. Like, how the fuck they know the cabin was there? They know it's a gay couple. Like, you find out that Redmond was at the bar where they were. So I'm like, are these guys just here pretending to be God, attacking this family because I mean, it is a gay couple? I mean, is this
all just a hate crime? Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking through the movie. And then The airplanes didn't really sell it for me, but it all coming together like at the end.
Yeah, I think the movie has to do that balancing act of like it's trying to convince you on what, because in its most effective form, you have to like kind of be unsure the whole time. You're like, is this real or not? You have to be in the character's shoes, unconvinced. And so it has to like walk the tightrope where it gives you just enough one way where it's like, okay, this Redmond character maybe was there in his past, and then we get to find that out. So it's constantly has to kind of give and take those different things. I want to talk about the Redmond thing later on, but let's talk M. Night Shyamalan right now. As Kody was brought it up in IMDb Known For.
Do I know you? I mean, where do I know you from?
His 4 are Lady in the Water, Signs, The Village, and The Sixth Sense. Austin, are you much of an M. Night Shyamalan fan? Do you know his work too much? Are you familiar with those 4 or any of his other movies?
Yeah. So I will say I definitely don't relate movies to the directors a whole lot. I will say I've seen Signs, I've seen The Village, and I've loved both. Honestly, would love to talk about Signs more just because of what it is. Lady in the Water, I have not seen. Sixth Sense, I'm not as familiar with, but I'm familiar with the premise of it.
It is funny. I'll just say this right off the bat. I haven't seen Lady in the Water. Austin, you'll know that M. Night also directed the Last Airbender movie, which is a reviled, hated movie. But Lady in the Water might be his most hated movie, so it's kind of funny. I think some people like it, but I think general consent. I mean, it has a 5.5 here on IMDb. It's funny that it's his top one though on the 4. Kody, what do you think about the 4?
I thought it was really ironic that was kind of the first one on there because, like you said, I think that is probably his most hated. I mean, you got Avatar, you got After Earth, like you got
The Happening has 5 stars.
Yeah, The Happening is pretty bad. I forgot about that one. Shout out Marky Mark. But that's the thing with M. Night. It's kind of like I was saying, it's either like it's probably a pretty good movie or it's a really, really bad movie. I think that's his problem most time. And his twist sort of format usually doesn't lean into that too nicely. But I like this list for him mostly. Sixth Sense is a really good movie. I don't think there's really any denying that. The Village is okay. Not my favorite. Signs is also okay. Definitely not my favorite. For me personally, I think the thing that's missing here is Unbreakable. I think in general, Unbreakable is one of the most underrated movies kind of out there. So I was disappointed not to see that. Not too surprised, obviously, knowing IMDb, but I think they got this list mostly right.
Yeah, I mean, Sixth Sense is obvious. It's, Oscar winning, right? Right? Won an Oscar?
Or something, probably.
Oscar nominated. I'll say that. And then if not, I'll cut it out. Sixth Sense, it made, I've got to hear, it made over $600 million. I mean, it's his highest grossing. Yeah. Signs, massive also hit. A huge one. I agree. Unbreakable should be on there, or even, Split. I feel like that's like his most modern success.
It's true. I forgot about that movie.
That's like Sullied by Glass, but that movie's still pretty successful money-wise. But I like it, Unbreakable a lot. Get Lady in the Water out of here. The Village is decent.
I don't like the
I don't really love it. It's kind of like a post 9/11 commentary movie, and sure, that's interesting. And Joaquin's doing his thing, but I don't know. Let's fuck it. Just put The Last Airbender on there.
I mean, if you're putting Lady in the Water, you might as well.
Yeah, you're doing the highs of the highs, and might as well do the low of the lows.
I did. Speaking of horror movies, I watched an M. Night Shyamalan produced, and I think maybe co-written / like story by movie Devil, which is like the elevator horror movie in October. That one's okay.
Interesting. Okay. Are they stuck in an elevator the entire time?
Yeah, you've never seen this movie Devil, where it's like 5 people are stuck in an elevator and one of them's the devil.
Oh, actually sounds pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, actually.
It's got Chris Messina, Logan Marshall Green.
For sure.
Couple
I know those people. Yeah.
Chris Messina, he was in Air earlier this year. He was one of the boys. Golden Globe nominated Air. No.
Air Bud.
M. Night Shyamalan, he's a director that I can't say I love the work of, but he does have a couple movies I enjoy.
Yeah, he's got my respect, but he like his overall filmography is definitely not good.
He's definitely talented. He knows how to write a script. He knows how to work inside the system. He does interesting things. Always say that.
He also cameos in every single one of his movies. But
yeah.
Shout out to my background. Dave Bautista is going to be our next. His 4: Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Blade Runner 2049, and Riddick from 2013. Hot off the press, making the 4. Where's this movie at? That's my take.
I agree completely. I mean, this is his starring role. I mean, this is his breakout role as far as I'm considered. But yeah, the one weird one here I think is obviously Riddick. I haven't seen Riddick. Shut up, Vin Diesel, obviously, but I assume
Shout
he
out.
doesn't have the biggest role in that movie. I could be way wrong. But I think other than that, they got it mostly right. Blade Runner 2049, I mean, he's just in one scene in that basically, but he's pretty damn good in that scene. And then the Guardians movies, I feel like that's where the vast majority of people do know him from. I would have liked to see, just one Guardians movie in here. Volume 2 kind of sucks anyway, so I don't know
Yeah,
why it's.
we'll even swap volume 2 for 3 at this point. I'd prefer.
Oh,
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe just do one, throw Knock and Dune in there. That's my.
I was gonna say, I mean, I feel like Dune for me has got to be the one in there. Also, another low key one I think I would put in the 4 spot is Knives Out Glass Onion, which
That was a good movie.
yeah, I mean he's in it pretty much the entire time as well. So I feel like that over Riddick would have made a lot more sense for me.
Him and the girl from Outer Banks. They were having quite the time in that movie.
True, they were paired up basically. Yeah,
I have a little bit of a different opinion on here. So I definitely agree. Leave one Guardians in the list, whichever you prefer. Get rid of Riddick. Add in probably Knock on there. I want to talk about. Are you guys familiar with The Boy and the Heron at all?
Yes, I am. I did get to go see that about a week and a half ago.
is he
What
in
do you
it?
think? What do you think of it?
I enjoyed it. I can admit that I'm not sure I quite fully comprehended everything it was trying to say.
Mhm.
It is a lot. It is a very deep and emotional piece, I think. The animation is really incredible. I did watch the English dub version, so I did get to hear Dave Bautista. He's really fun in it. I think the voice cast in the English version is really solid. Did you get a chance to check it out, Austin?
I haven't seen the whole movie. I want to go and see it. I just know that all the voice acting was incredible from the vampire himself. I know he did an amazing job.
Yeah, Robert
Dave,
Pat in a
yep.
transformative role as the Heron, the titular Heron.
Dave was obviously really funny. His role was good, but definitely something I do want to check out.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend it to the people. Obviously, a Studio Ghibli film, Miyazaki, very reflective work. Dave Bautista not in it a ton, I will say that, kind of a smaller role, but that just also speaks to the thing that I said earlier about wanting to like work with people. Him just getting a chance to play this really fun role. That was definitely a highlight. I will say that. So go check out The Boy and the Heron.
In the future here for Dave, something I'd like to see on his list. I don't know if you guys have heard the interview, but he wants to play a role in a romance film.
Yes.
Which after seeing this film, hell, give it to the guy. I mean, he has incredible range. He did amazing here as a different kind of character. Or just give him a shot. Line him up with Sydney Sweeney or something. I'll go watch it.
I was literally about to say, who do you pair him up with? Sydney Sweeney. The thing is, he's older. He's in his 50s. So like, who's an age appropriate dame for old Dave? Who would you want to see in like a late stage romantic comedy with Dave Bautista? Ronda Rousey?
Jurassic. No, actually, Marissa Tomei. That'd be kind of cool.
I could definitely see it. I feel like, has she not played like who was his ex-wife in my spot? Like, we need to do I feel like at some point, I could definitely see that. That is a good pairing. Cody, you have a better one?
That's actually a really good one. I was thinking Meryl Streep, but maybe that's a little bit too old. But
Yeah.
give me anybody. You can go young, you can go old. I think with Dave, he's
Star of Only Murders in the Building season 3, Meryl Streep. I do think is a bit out of the age range for Dave.
I'd watch it. I'd definitely watch it. So it's all that matters.
Mina and I have been watching White Lotus, so I'll throw out a little Jennifer Coolidge, pair them together.
Okay. That's age appropriate. I like that one too.
She again might be a little bit older, but I think that works better than Meryl Streep. Let's throw it over to our daddies. First up, Eric, played by Jonathan Groff. It is his 4: Frozen, Hamilton, The Matrix Resurrections, and Mindhunter. Austin, what do you think about? Have you seen any of these? Frozen.
I will say, I wanted to save this to go over it together. I didn't know he was in Frozen. I didn't know he was in Hamilton, but now I remember watching it. He is King George. Not real big musical guy. I thought King George was a really good character in it, though. It was funny. Him spitting on screen is pretty funny. I also see on here Invincible. I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of people love it.
I'm not familiar with who he plays in that, but I definitely have watched some of it. So that's cool that he's doing some voice work with that.
But what about the other two, Matrix and Mindhunter? I'm not familiar with those.
Yeah, I never got around to watching Matrix Resurrections. Cody, do you have any opinions on that?
No, I did not. I think that's funny. Somehow both of us missed that, but yeah, the only one
I said I was going to get nominated for best VFX at the Oscars, and that didn't happen. He clowned me for months. So
it was close. It was definitely
it was shortlisted.
Honorable mention.
On the list.
Yeah, it was close.
It was literally right there, number 6.
But I believe in that movie he replaces Hugo Weaving as like the main villain.
Oh, he's the new Agent Smith.
He is, yeah. So it was a pretty big role for him. So I think that was kind of maybe his more of his breakout here. But
it does say, it literally says Smith right here. I guess
so I guess it was just a straight up recast. But I mean, that's a pretty good role for him because I feel like he's not too well known. But I haven't seen Hamilton. Frozen, I think he's like the main guy in that. Yeah, I think that's the main guy, isn't it?
I don't like Frozen.
And then Mindhunter, that is actually on my list. I've heard that's pretty good, but I've not seen that either. But I mean, this guy, he's been in a lot of decent stuff, and he's still kind of, in the younger part of his career. So I think he's got a lot of potential.
Mindhunter, definitely a cool one to see on here. We're going to be doing some David Fincher talk coming up on the podcast feed. So there's a little tease there. And Hamilton, I have not watched that. That is the Disney Plus filmed version of Hamilton, of course, that is referring to specifically on here. He was in the original production. Actually, I don't think he was the original King George, now that I correct that, because I did go see Hamilton when our friend Dylan was visiting here. Shout out to us. He took us to Hamilton. Mina and I and him went. I don't like Hamilton. I'm a Lin-Manuel Miranda certified hater. He's on the list. If there's things I hate, it's Aaron Eckhart, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and the movie The Way, Way Back. Those are my 3. And
not The Way, Way Back.
And Hamilton, unfortunately, is connected to that. And it is an impressive stage production, and is, it's a Broadway musical. It's very good. And I do think Jonathan Groff, in the scenes in which I have seen on TikTok, is good in the role, and he fits it well. But let's get some real movies on his list. IMDb, that's my big take. Let's not have a filmed Broadway production on IMDb. This is the Internet Movie Database.
You're a hater.
Is that what it is?
Certified hater. Add that up there. IMDb, you're coming in for number 4. You're going to be on my list. I'll admit, though, I haven't seen Jonathan Groff in a lot, so maybe it's finally time I check it out. I guess I did watch Glee, so he was in 14 episodes of that. So
okay.
Moving over to our other co-lead, Ben Aldridge playing Andrew, his 4, Knock at the Cabin, spoiler alert, The Long Call, and Fleabag. Spoiler alert, where he plays the love interest of Old Sheldon in a sad gay love story that came out just a few months before Knock at the Cabin. And then The Long Call, I'm not really familiar with. And then, of course, Fleabag is an acclaimed show. He plays the role of arsehole guy, but he's in 5 episodes, so it's hard to say. Phoebe Waller-Bridge working with Ben Aldridge, I guess.
I haven't heard of spoiler alert or what was it, Last Call, I believe it was, but are you talking about Jim Parsons?
Yeah, Old Sheldon.
Okay, Old Sheldon. We're gonna have some young Sheldon references later, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I mean, this guy's kind of up and coming as well. Again, I feel like the thing that people will probably know him from is Fleabag. Again, I haven't seen that. I did watch Dial of Destiny, and I liked Phoebe Waller-Bridges, so maybe add that to the list. But I thought this guy was pretty good. He kind of had a more of an emotional role throughout too, but I was impressed with the 2 kind of co-leads here, with kind of dealing with everything they were going through.
Now, I will say he played, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Austin, you might have to let me know, in the TV show Pennyworth, which I guess is based around the character of Alfred.
Yeah.
He played Thomas Wayne for 28 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So he was big in the Pennyworth universe, on a Max original that I missed out on completely.
I didn't even know that's a thing.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one who missed out on that.
But Jack Bannon plays Alfred, but he's listed 4th, so he was definitely around playing the daddy of Batman.
Dude, I guess
he's a lot of daddies.
Get him into DC.
Yeah,
baby. James Gunn.
True.
If you're listening,
crossover. Hey, he's
Call
gonna
this
bring
man.
Dave in, so let's just get the whole cast. Get Rupert Grint a role in DCU. He played Jimmy Olsen. It'll be perfect. That's my
That's already cast.
spot casting. Replace him.
I just want to say
Too
about Ben
old.
Aldridge. I'm not going to waste any time here. I haven't seen any of his top 4 other than Knock. I'm not familiar with him. I do think he did better than the other daddy, Jonathan Groff. I would honestly put Ben at the second best actor in this movie. So I was pretty impressed.
I do think he is very good. The thing about Jonathan Groff, his role, and maybe we go ahead and jump over to the good, the bad, and the ugly here. This is kind of bad, but also maybe good. Like the thing is, I think he does fine in this movie, but he just has so much less to do because like he's sitting there concussed the whole time, and that's like kind of his role. Jumping into the bad, something I know flipping around, but we'll go back to the good. Jumping into the bad, something I'll say right off the bat is in comparison to the book, I think the concussion is detailed in such a more realistic and it has such a more heavy weight on the characters and on the actions and events of the story in the book rather than the movie. In this, obviously, he gets hit on the head. They're complaining about it. They're talking about it. He has a concussion. He really doesn't say much, but you don't get to spend a ton of time in his head, or you don't get to really experience how much it affects him. And even in the book, it's like he can't even like get up and like walk around. He's so heavily concussed, and like he's really fuzzy and in and out of things, and it's like affecting his judgment, and they're having to like work around that fact. Whereas this movie, it uses it as a plot device, and then by the end of the movie, it's kind of erased the fact that he still has that concussion.
Fair enough, book boy. I would say, yeah, I mean, the concussion, it's really not even a big part of the movie, but that is cool. I mean, it was kind of like when Rupert Grint gets chopped up. I feel like that's the key moment where like the concussion is kind of in play. Like, oh, did I see this? Did I see that?
Right.
Be like, nah, dude, like you got a massive concussion. You don't even know what you're looking at. Like, obviously you're sensitive to light, and it's light as hell outside. So I think it is interesting that it played a much more larger role in the book.
Let's get back to the good, and we'll start with you, Austin. What did you think was good about this movie?
The best part about giving feedback is to go over the bad. I know we're going over to the good. My one knock on here is I do think the movie could have been shorter.
One knock?
My one knock
at the
is
cabin?
It could have been shorter.
It could be a little bit shorter. I take that, Kody. I think you hinted that you feel similarly. This is an hour 40 movie. It feels like a movie that like you'd be like, oh yeah, knock at cabin. It's 92 minutes, but no, it is a cool 110, right?
Yeah,
100.
Yeah,
102.
But the good, Korbin, I know you're more familiar with actually the shooting of a movie. Shout out Contactless. I do in my experience. I think it was shot very well. When Redmond is killed, and they have that whole scene where the camera flips up with the weapon and comes down. At first, I didn't like that. Second watch, I kind of did. I mean, I thought it was kind of impressive. Korbin, you could probably speak more on it. I saw something about this movie was shot on a certain kind of film to make it feel older. I don't know if you had seen that at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see anything about that specifically, but yeah, that's a really cool thing. M. Night Shyamalan is, a director who's been working for a really long time. He's like a seasoned technician, so it doesn't surprise me at all that, they would make a distinct choice to create a feeling in this movie. And I do like the way it really texturally looks, and kind of the colors and the grains, and it's set into like kind of like a remote Pennsylvania area. And I think it all plays very well together. So, and I love that scene that you're talking about with the Rupert Grint killing. I think is like one of the highlights of the way it's shot together, the way the camera cuts back and forth from like the perspective of his body, and then of course, like you said, that movement of the axe flipping, and we see a lot of flourishes like that early. There's also the conversation between Wynn and Dave Bautista when they're outside, and they're kind of jumping back and forth with the slanted Dutch angles. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that they're playing around with, and then near the end of the movie, it's a little bit more traditional.
We mentioned a lot of stuff already, but I just want to talk about kind of the lead couple. I thought like they were just a good couple together, and I thought they were pretty likable just as characters. So I think putting them at kind of the center of this story, like I said, it really does allow you to kind of put yourself in their shoes and kind of be like, oh, would I do something similar? But I like too kind of the little flashbacks they have throughout, just because they come at like different times throughout the movie, and they kind of relate to something that's going along in the present. Specifically like the Rupert Grint bar scene. If that was Rupert Grint, I assume it was just him kind of beard makeup and stuff. I thought that was kind of really interesting. Just like that whole storyline and kind of what that means, that this is the same character. I do have questions of why Rupert Grint was even involved with this, but we'll get to that later. But I thought it was pretty good, just like their chemistry throughout, and especially with Wen too. Like that family dynamic, I think was a really strong point for me.
I agree, definitely. I love all the flashbacks, like you said, where it's jumping back. I think it's really effective in the way that it utilizes that of like you see the scene of the parents, and you garner so much information about their relationship just from that little moment of like they drove 7 hours to stay for 45 minutes and left. And then, you get the other one. And he's like, I'm going to go, there's my mom calling. And like, you're hearing that. And then you see the flashbacks of him like doing all this intense training after he was, had this like gay bashing incident where Rupert Grint attacked him, like you said. And that's also like building the character of like, clearly this is a guy who was broken by this hate crime that happened to him and then reacted very heavily in the opposite direction. So then that puts him in this position. He owns a gun. He's trained to be a fighter. And you see him attacking the Rupert Grint's character earlier in the movie in a very heavy mannered way. He's the guy who fights back, and that'll play into the rest of the movie. So I think it's great the way the story is really constructed that way.
I agree. And then the other thing I want to mention too, kind of just like the intensity, I feel like picks up a little bit. It's around like the 45-50 minute mark, but I feel like we kind of just ride like an intense train for a while, and it kind of culminates with the scene in the bathroom with Dave Bautista. I think specifically that's probably my favorite scene. First off, the setup of it I like a lot, where it's like Dave breaks the window and you're like, dude, like I know that's a setup, like that's so bait that he's still in there. And then it's smart like what they do where he like shoots the curtain, but like how did he miss Dave Bautista?
Well, he didn't. He shot the arm. He just
did he hit him in the arm? Okay, I missed that. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, Dave was a massive target. So I thought that was funny. But I feel like the shot kind of just stands on the shower curtain for like just the right amount of time, and then it kind of jumps out at you. So I thought that specifically, just like the tension that built up was pretty fun.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, and I mean the cool thing about that scene where it's like convincing you of two different things at once, where he breaks the window, but you're like, he couldn't fit through that. The characters literally say he couldn't fit through it, but you're like, maybe he did, and then like you don't know what to believe, and every moment you have no idea. It's crazy. What else you got for the good? Anything, Austin?
Yeah, one last good. I don't want to pass over this. The young actress who played Wynn, her name is looks like Kristen. I don't want to mispronounce, but is this her feature? Yeah, Chu probably. It's her feature film, like her first one. I thought she did a pretty solid job. Yeah, looking at IMDb, there's nothing else on here.
Yeah, it's got to be her introducing credit, right? Was that in the credits? It probably wasn't.
I don't watch credits, to be honest with you, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't watch either. But you always have that introducing Shia LaBeouf and Holes.
Introducing Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. So shout out. I agree completely. Like I said, I think just her dialogue off the beginning was something that makes her character actually a lot more like interesting and relatable, even though she's a little kid. But I wish they did give her more to do, but she was awesome. I definitely back that.
Definitely have to shout her out. M. Night Shyamalan has done, a lot of movies with kid actors. So it's kind of like a, sixth sense sign that he does family stories well. And I think this one is another good example of that. I like the director cameo. Kody, were you hating on that? Or are you gonna? I don't know if you're gonna bring it up later. You don't want to see him selling fried chicken?
I think this director cameo is good. Most of his other ones are complete garbage, especially like Lady in the Water is just an extreme version of it. But this one's fun. I mean, yeah, him being like one of the people on TV trying to sell like these stupid devices and crap on a cooking channel. I thought it was a lot of fun.
He's like the guy who like drives them, I'm pretty sure, to the beach. Like he's like the weird dude. I don't know. It's talking about the casting, I know we've mentioned Dave Bautista, but I do want to say from like, again, not to harp on it too much, but the book, it is really well executed in the way that they cast him. Literally, he's described as being taller than anyone she's ever seen and as wide as a couple of tree trunks pushed together. He has a fire hydrant neck, but his voice is not as big as he is, not even close. So it's like that dichotomy of like, this is a gentle giant. So like there are some, differences. He's supposed to have like moppy hair and a clean shaven face and be kind of like a pale, younger version of their dad, but he's still like the embodiment of like tough and scary, but gentle and trusting. And like, you could understand why this little girl would, talk to him.
I agree completely. I mean, it's not the easiest role for Dave in a sense, I think is what you're saying too. Just because like that's not his normal typecast, I feel like. This sort of sensitive guy who's trying to, in the long term, he's trying to help them out, really. But he's kind of like the nicest guy in the world, but also like tying them up and telling them the apocalypse is coming. So I like kind of the irony with that of like his image and like what he's trying to, convey. One thing I definitely want to talk about was sort of the emotional attachment they have with the song in the movie, which I thought was really effective. It's I don't even know if this is
Casey
the title.
and the Sunshine Band.
It's the Boogie Shoes. Yeah. What's the hook of it? I can't even think of it right now.
I need
my booger. But play the clip because it's a good song. I thought like that kind of callback at the end after sort of the death had gone down, like it got me turned up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. So I thought that was really good. And then kind of the same thing I said before, but I think this might be one of my favorite M. Night movies just because the twist is there is no twist. They were telling the truth the entire time, which I was honestly shocked by. Again, after seeing a lot of bad M. Night movies where it's kind of, what you expect throughout. And then at the end, it's some bullshit that he just came up last minute, I feel like. So I like the realism. I like that M. Night didn't kind of go full out M. Night and kind of just made a good movie.
Moving on to the bad, I'll get it started here. My main thing, the news reports in this movie just don't make any fucking sense because the footage they have is from like people they're like, let's go down to this report we have, and it's just like these people taking like their own personal video on a beach and then they get swept away by a tsunami. How did they get it? Were they live streaming? Like they didn't say that. Like they're acting like they had a news reporter there, but that's very clearly not. And then again, like the plane footage that makes sense, but there's just some questionable news reports that I cannot back in this movie.
And my question is that like, was that on purpose? Just because it's like, it doesn't look the realest to me. I'm no expert, obviously, but I think maybe that's just a tactic that they used to try and keep you guessing a little bit.
But then at the end of the movie, it is real. So like it goes against the line.
Exactly. Right? But that's the thing. Like I thought the entire movie, like this is bullshit. Just like, and one of the new stuff definitely was one of the main factors in that. So then to turn it at the end and be like, oh, it was real. I think that's just kind of maybe a little bit. It could also not be on purpose. And I'm just making up that in my head. But that's my thought process. I don't know.
Corbin, my question on the live stream of the tsunami is, I think I remember seeing it said live, like on the top right of the screen, so like some kind of Instagram live. My question is, how did they get permission to show a live stream on the news from a dead person?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So there's definitely a lawsuit happening there.
Seriously.
Well, nobody's even gonna be alive to sue him anymore.
True.
That's true. The apocalypse is happening. I don't know if there's any lawyers that'll be available, but Kody, what do you got for the bad, man? I'll throw it over to you.
I got some stuff. I mean, again, it's kind of similar to yours, Korbin, where I'm just kind of confused on some stuff. I think they don't explain everything to the fullest. I don't really understand why, this cultish group like has to die in a sense. I guess it's just to kind of, push the apocalypse forward. But I feel like it's pretty fucked up because these are just like random people. Like supposedly they just all had these quote unquote visions and then met on this quote unquote message board. And then they met up at
when people are on message boards, man.
Yeah, when that happened, I was like, oh, this is mad sus. But I think that was intentional too. But I just don't really understand, like, because they're like doubting their purpose as we go along here too. They're like, oh, I had strong visions of this, but not really of anything in the cabin. And then the watch thing, they're like, Andrew says multiple times, like, oh, you're checking your watch. You guys are all looking at the time. So like something's going on weird. That's never explained either. So, and then also I'm just gonna throw everything that I don't understand. But lastly, Rupert Grint, I don't understand his connection here really, just because obviously he was this bigot who had a past with them and then supposedly went to prison, was a bit reformed. And then now he's just here for some reason. Again, not explained at all. So kind of a lot of just hanging threads, I feel like, that I could have used a little bit more information on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, again, when like you go through this whole idea where at the end of this movie, it's all real. They really did need to make a sacrifice for the world to be saved. Then you start to ask these questions of like, so why was the guy who hate crimed them forced to be one of the four? Like, does that make sense? And then you start asking, like, what's up with the god, like the god or the omnipotent force in this movies? Like, what's their deal and like what's going on? And I definitely have a lot of questions.
It's like said throughout, like, oh, this has happened like throughout history or some shit. I don't understand that either. Like, what is this? Like every year, like you pick a new family or something? Like, I need more information.
Wait for Knock at the Cabin 2 coming soon.
It explains why COVID happened.
It'll be us three. We have to make a choice.
COVID-19. Thanks a lot, Andrew and Eric.
Hey, if Dave's there, I'm down. But
Austin, what do you think, man?
I will say the beginning of the film I thought was really suspenseful, and it being sold or kind of like marketed as being a suspense movie, I think it really accomplished that. I was, on the edge of my seat trying to figure out what was happening, try to decipher what I thought. But I think normally in suspense movies, like you hit that peak and then you just go slamming down. I didn't really get that from this film. It kind of like slowly lets you down, which I can understand some people liking, but I'm not a fan of. My other bad is I think this could go into more of the recast section, but I wasn't really a fan of Abby Quinn. I can't remember what was the character's name. Adrian.
Adrian, yeah.
The thing is, like, I don't know if it's because of the character and how the character is written. I feel like it could have been portrayed a little bit better.
Why is she doing bits?
Yeah, like her jokes are awful. Like,
it's just like I feel like it's the weirdest part of the writing of this movie where it's like, we got to have this character who's doing like kind of jokes and trying to lighten the mood. And obviously each of the four of them has their kind of own unique personality. Hers just feels the weirdest. And I don't know if it is Abby Quinn's fault or if it's the writing or what it is exactly. I'm not familiar with her and other stuff, so I don't want to say right now, but I think the other three are all better.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. And spoiler alert too, but I'm going to recast her as well at the end of everything here too. So I think we're on the same page. But yeah, I think the two female kind of parts in this, I feel like we're mostly just underwritten. Like it was just like, oh, the typical nurse prototype. And then kind of just like the comedic relief, I guess, a little bit with the other character. But yeah, I agree. Out of the Horsemen, I think those were definitely the two weaker characters. Yeah.
The Sabrina character is something that I'm really sad kind of was dialed way back in this. And in this movie as a whole, everything is honestly quickened and the pace is really tightened in comparison to the book, of course. Like they get there and then basically kill Rupert Grant right away. It's kind of funny when you like see, if I know you didn't know that he was in it, Austin, you said, but like if you watch the marketing, you're like, okay, these four people show up. One of them is Ron Weasley. That's cool. But he's like dead in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the movie.
I was shocked by that. I did not see that coming at all.
He doesn't say a lot.
Yeah.
He's definitely around for a longer period of time, which creates more anxiety with the like Eric and him because of the whole thing where he's like trying to recall, like, is this the guy? It was many years ago, he's changed and he's like wrestling with that fact. Whereas in this, it's like he has to compound, instantly realize, yes, that was O'Bannon. So just pacing wise, things change a lot. And then the other thing, Sabrina, the character, is way different. So the order of events, Wynn gets shot in the book, and then Leonard kills himself. It's his time to die. And then Sabrina's the last person left. And obviously we see a little bit of here where she's kind of the one who is the least invested into the faith. Like she's a little bit unsure. She's kind of like, is this really what we should be doing? And the book really explores that thought where like you're in her head. The perspective of the book is written really strangely where it'll be like third person limited from a certain person's point of view, but then within the same paragraph switch into first person and it kind of jumps around. But there's a whole section where it's entirely her perspective and she's like juggling with this fact of, I've gone this far, I've set this up, I believe that the world is ending, but also I hate what I've done. I wish I could just tell them, just leave. Like, and she's wrestling with that fact. And then even in her final moments where she like shoots herself in the head, she's like trying to tell him like, you have to make a choice, but I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry. And like, there's a cool moment there. And then it goes into, the choice that they make in the final moments. But I hate how much it cuts back that character because I feel like there's a lot of depth to explore in that quandary of like, even the people doing this don't know if this is what they should be doing.
I like that a lot too. I think just looking at more of their inner turmoil would have been pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because after they kill like Rupert Grint and then the second girl, like they like walk around and be like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And then like they don't talk about it for the rest of the movie. So I think like actually, giving them more depth, like you said, would have been 10 times more interesting than what we got.
Any other bad for either of you guys?
My other thing, again, I said this before, but I don't like the character name of Leonard. Was that the name of the book as well, Korbin?
Yeah,
guessing?
they didn't keep the names.
Well, change it to something else because that name is just terrible. But
What do you propose, Kody?
I mean, anything else for Dave Bautista?
Seymour?
Seymour.
Seymour.
Where'd you get Seymour? Okay. All right, I like Seymour. How about Jim? That's a good one. He looks like a Jim.
This is why you didn't write.
It's got to be Leonard. It's got to be Leonard.
I kind of dig Leonard.
Leonard sucks. If you name your kid Leonard, if your name's Leonard, I'm sorry, but you're not the best.
Well, shout out to all our Maestro stands out there. Leonard Bernstein, the movie coming soon.
Name another one. I can't think of another Leonard.
Leonard from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's
Leonard.
my thought. But...
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Leonard Nimoy. Kody, shout out to
that's a good one.
Star Trek. Speaking ill of the dead. Let's speaking ill of the dead, let's go to the ugly. Kody, you're being pretty ugly right now. What do you got, Kody? Why are you being so ugly?
I'm just ugly in general, so it's hard to come back. I'm mostly just like focused on the deaths here. I mean, I'll fast forward to the end to begin here, but Dave Bautista slicing his own throat. I mean, that's going to cut me straight to the core. So I thought that was pretty tough. And then, I mean, the Rupert Grint death, I think that's probably the most, I guess, visual of all the deaths. You kind of see exactly what kind of happened with that. But I kind of like that almost. So I feel like maybe some gory stuff can go there in the ugly. My big ugly, I think, is surrounded around Adrian, where during the scene where she's like talking about her kid, I thought she was completely bullshitting. Yeah. And then we get to the very end and it's revealed through pictures in her purse that she actually does have a kid. So I thought that was tough. I thought that was probably like the biggest thing that stood out to me. I was like, damn, like that was kind of a cool reveal and a cool moment, but still kind of makes you feel really ugly on the inside, I feel like. Yeah. Just because I didn't believe her at all. I was like, you're full of shit. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is a tough reveal there at the end for sure.
If we go back to the Ender's Game episode, I'm not a huge fan of movies adapting books. And I think books adapting a movie is even worse. Luckily, that didn't happen here. I'm a fan of keeping the source material the same. I understand, like, Korbin, you read the book, you go watch the movie, you're like, oh, I already know what's happening. I think it's a better experience to follow the source material, and then if you haven't read the book, actually go see the movie. You can have minor differences, but I think, again, I haven't read the book, but from what you're saying, there's some pretty big differences in there that I think would have made the movie completely different, obviously.
Yeah, and something I want to talk about is like the final moments of this movie are even different because here's the thing. Neither of them sacrifice themselves in the book. The ending of the book is so much more ambiguous and it's more strung out in the way that it plays out of what is really happening. It's unclear if this truly is an apocalypse or not. And it kind of ends on that note. Like I mentioned, the whole Sabrina thing, and you get the O'Bannon character is the same, where it's kind of leaving that ambiguous of like, was he really a gay? But like, was this all coordinated by him? Like, you're still trying to figure that out. But the thing about this movie is, in the end, it's real. Like, it's determined that there was an apocalypse, and it's very definitive that like some sort of force did make this choice. They showed visions to these 4 people, sent them there to cause, them to sacrifice somebody, and that's what saved the world, right? And that's like such a tough view, right? To have that like the God or the force that exists does require human sacrifice. And it's this very Old Testament, hard, fire and brimstone. You got to sacrifice your son in order to prove your love for God view of the world, which I just don't really personally agree with. And, Shyamalan is not, I don't believe a Christian person, but he went to Catholic school growing up. So he was very around these ideas and is very interested in them. And I mentioned the movie Signs, that movie is very much about religion and faith and believing in something. And in Sixth Sense, it's, dealing with the ideas of the afterlife. Right. So he's constantly coming back to these ideas. But to me, the main message that okay, we did need to sacrifice, because the thing about the book is these two people have already lost their entire world. Their daughter has died. They decide to choose their love together. They're not going to leave each other alone to face anything, whether it's the apocalypse or just a regular world that has been left behind for them. They're not going to do that alone, and they're just going to go out into the world and move on. Whereas in this one, it's like, you do have to die. One of you gay people has to be sacrificed for the betterment of our religion. And like, I think that's a really tough thing. And sure, maybe Shyamalan can phrase it as like, well, no, they have a more pure love because they really had to, go through a struggle. And it's easy for straight people to be in relationships and easy for straight people to have kids. And they had to, create a family, and they had to go to China. Like, that's sure one view to have of it. But to me, I think it ends up just being a really ugly, gross thing of like, yeah, for the faith that I want to have, God says you have to just like kill one of these gay guys in order for our society to continue. And I think it's just not for me at all. And that's so against the thesis of the book and what that's really about. And for me, as someone who, does not see myself as a very faith-filled person in that traditional Christian way, I connect more with the message of the book than the message of this movie.
I think that's completely fair. I mean, like I said off the top, I don't think I categorize myself, too religious either, but I don't know. I think maybe you're reading into it a little bit too much. And obviously, like you said too, I mean, reading the book, I think would change my perspective greatly as well. So I feel like, especially when you're reading a book too, like the overall themes of that are just so easy to grasp just because there's so much physical material. And with a movie, like half the time I miss like some of the main themes, I feel like, and just like random shit. But I feel like in this, I don't know, maybe you're grasping like based off the information the movie gave us, it was a fairly random kind of choice.
I mean, yeah, you see it clearly on Batista's face that when Wynn says, my daddy's, he doesn't know that there's two gay men.
I don't think it's saying too much about like, gay relationships. I think it puts them in a fairly good light, at least. And then, but the bigger thing obviously is like the religious themes. Like, why is this God choosing kind of a tight-knit family to one of them has to make a sacrifice? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm completely on board with that. So on that side of the ugly, I do agree, but I think from the relationship standpoint, I think a lot of that stuff was handled pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that thing where it's like, if there is a God that is so terrible, that would like put us through this position, like maybe they don't even want to, face that God. They're just going to go off for the world. And especially in the book, when you have the death of Wynn and that not even being like considered enough of a sacrifice, then it's like even more dark, where it's like, if you're not going to take our daughter dying here and you still need more bloodshed, then we're not going to give it to you, which I think is an interesting way to end things.
It's like overall too, like what's the point? There's no point to any of this other than you have to do this or the world's going to end.
Yeah.
We don't get a reasoning for anything, which I think is pretty frustrating.
It looks like the omnipotent, whoever power above is, like the lightning strikes, the tree catches on fire, falls in the cabin, and it's all burning up. It's like, if it's God, even God is disgusted by what he did here.
Yeah.
Like he's just they're trying to cover it up.
Fair point, for sure. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. And we're back with Invite, Fight, Night. Who do you want to invite on the pod? We'll invite our guest to tell us who they'd bring with them. Austin, what do you think?
I think the KHAP move for me here is to invite Dave Bautista to the pod. So I'm going to go to the second choice here. I'd like to invite Ben Aldridge. Like we said before, we were not really familiar with what he's done. He seems to be upcoming. I think it'd be good to hear his input, what he thought of the film, working with
get in
M.
on the
Night.
ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
Get him before the star is too big. I like it.
Yeah, then we can kind of grow KHAP along with him.
Ooh.
But
I like it. Bring him into the fourth post.
But just see like what he has upcoming, kind of what he envisions his career like if he had to pick a genre, that kind of thing. Like we could have a good little pod with him.
Definitely. I think he's a guy who will be doing interesting things moving forward. So it'd definitely be cool to talk to him. What do you think, Kody? Who'd you invite?
Yeah, I agree with both. I mean, I'd love to have Dave or Mr. Aldridge on. I think those would both be great. My pick, I went character here. It's kind of a weird cut. I went with, there's only one specific scene with kind of this actress, but I want grown up Wen. So we've like one like mini like flash forward scene that's not even really, it's kind of just like them envisioning, what it's going to be. But I kind of just want to hear like about her trauma, how this moment like affected her life overall. I think like her growing up, it'd be a really interesting perspective on like all the events and kind of all of the, you know, downfall after this as well. So I think that'd be a fun choice.
I like the deep cut, Kody. I also have a little bit of a deep cut, and I want to get Adrian's kid, the pancake lover.
Oh.
Get that guy. He's got some deep-seated trauma. His mother was this crazy religious zealot who went off to Pennsylvania to kill herself. And then, I mean, you obviously have all this intense, you know, body found in a burnt up cabin. I mean, I'm sure there was a deep police investigation, and we could kind of start the true crime podcast that pivots upon this kid's trauma, I guess is what I'm saying. So let's get Thomas. I
like that a lot.
Or I don't know.
I honestly don't know. Pancake boy.
Charlie, maybe? I don't know. But
no, that sounds right.
I think the
Charlie, yeah. I wrote it down. I
think the crime procedural would be amazing. We need like a True Detective, like season 10. Just do like a sequel to this movie would be amazing.
Definitely. All right, fight. Kody, who do you want to fight?
I mean, probably Rupert Grint, just from his character's perspective here. Again, I don't really understand like why he was even reconnected in this scenario. He does, I mean, get his head bashed in, which I guess is good enough, but I'd like to lay a nice little punch on him before that. So he's going to be my pick.
Yeah, Redmond, O'Bannon, whatever his name
Whatever you want to call him, yeah.
He's definitely deserving. He did some time though, Kody, so
did he?
Bob and Weave.
Supposedly reformed, but you know, he's a redhead, so I don't trust him.
Yeah.
Austin, who do you want to fight?
Definitely not fighting Dave. Get my ass kicked there. I think I'm going to fight M. Night, actually.
Ooh.
Because, you know, we talk about how his movies have all the twists, you know, things are changing. I want to see if he's got some kind of twist to fighting. Okay. Or if he's just going to get folded like a chair. So see how it goes.
See what these hands can do, M. Night.
Yeah.
I like it. Is it him in real life or his character as the fried chicken salesman?
No, that's a good question. I'm going to go with the fried chicken salesperson. Like, that haircut, that shirt, I'm definitely beating his ass. So
I do love an air fryer though. So
that shirt, he's asking for it with that shirt.
Yeah.
Is it $89.96? That's a little overpriced. So let's give him a punch for capitalism. I'm gonna fight somebody I probably can't take, but this movie's God is that's who I've got beef with, I guess. I mean, if you're gonna make this poor family sacrifice one of them, I think you're deserving of a punch. So I'll see what I can do. Fuck the apocalypse.
You're gonna punch God.
This movie,
I want to see that one.
That's amazing.
M. Night's version, and I guess in this case, maybe it is M. Night. Maybe he is the omnipotent force. Maybe he's playing God. So
honestly, probably
I'll back you on that.
Yeah.
And then Night, I'll start it. I'll say Eric. I think he's the one. He does in the end sacrifice himself. He is the most deserving of the knighthood. And he takes one so we can live. So I guess shout out to him.
Big ups to Eric. I'll bounce off that. That was my pick as well. Daddy Eric taking the bullet to save the world. I mean, you can't really ask for anything else. So yeah, that was a pretty easy pick for me as well.
Austin?
I am going to take the easy answer here, say Dave, but not as in Leonard or just him being Dave, but him being a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Like what? He was a coach. Looked like he led kids, even though it was a 3-8 record. Maybe basketball is not his calling.
The girls were 5 and 6, so a little bit better.
True, but I'll knight him. Anybody willing to work with kids, and that kind of career isn't really very financially rewarding. But if he's satisfied by it, I would like to. He seems like a good person, other than the whole murder shtick.
Right before the apocalypse stuff, he's a stand-up guy.
Yeah,
just again, what he does online, we don't worry about.
Exactly.
The Recast.
Bond. James Bond. My name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
You both want to replace Adrian. I also I wanted to replace Adrian, but I didn't come up with a good pick. So I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, I pivoted here, but I will say I wanted to replace Adrian. I was trying to think of, since Adrian's jokes didn't really land, maybe I thought it was the actress. So I was thinking of some comedy actresses. Couldn't really think of anything. So instead I'm going with the stack here, the combo, the whole Rupert Grint, Emma Watson stack.
Ooh.
I'm not really entirely sure her kind of acting ability. I don't think the role is really that difficult, but it'd be cool to see if they had any chemistry on screen.
Emma Stone not really acting in a lot these days, so yeah, bring her on. I like that idea.
Did I say Emma
Watson,
Stone or
you
Emma
mean?
Watson?
I meant, yeah, I
Corbin
said
said
okay,
Emma
okay.
Stone.
you said Emma
Okay.
Watson. I said Emma Stone. That's on me. Emma
I think-
Stone acting a lot these days.
Yeah.
Very, very working, and we love her for that. But yeah, that's fun.
Shout out the curse. Not shout out. But I like that a lot. Little Harry Potter reunion. I feel like we're gonna get that eventually somewhere. So I'd be down to see it here. My pick, I was thinking along the same lines here, kind of more of a comedic based actress. And I was thinking maybe Alison Brie.
I actually did have that as like early, but then I was like, I don't know, that's probably not good enough.
Yeah, it's not the best. I feel like they look fairly similar too, so maybe that's why it reminded me. Also, I just recently watched Promising Young Woman, which I think Alison Brie is actually pretty good in. But I think she can kind of do the best of both worlds. Like she definitely has obviously the comedic side, but I think she can get a little bit dark too. So I thought that'd be a fun pick.
When I was reading the book, I was picturing Michael Cudlitz for Redmond. Do you guys know who that is?
Yeah, good guy.
I'll look it up real quick.
If you say this is the redheaded guy from The Walking Dead, it'll come up.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
This is just especially like his look in The Walking Dead for some reason is what I wanted to see happening.
What's his character's name in The Walking Dead? It's some old timey name.
Is Abraham Ford?
Abraham. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's Abraham. Rip Abraham. Shout out my boy Negan.
Yeah, so that's my pitch. I want to see him come in as the.
It's like 10 years old.
I think Rupert Grant is fine. I think Rupert Grant is fine in this movie. I don't think he's amazing, but I think Redmond fits that kind of character more, just naturally.
Yeah.
If you see Michael Cudlitz there.
I think Rupert Grant, he's not country enough, I don't think, really.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's true.
And the accent's a little strange, if we admit.
Yeah.
Right?
He's too likable, too.
It's supposed to be kind of Boston. I don't think he's doing it. Though.
Really? I didn't catch that. He's too
I
British.
kind of agree. Too British. To give us something third, like unique here, I'll recast M. Night in his own cameo. And if we could do dead people here, I was going to say Billy Mays.
Love that.
You know, TV.
Bringing a true salesman.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, if we had to do somebody alive, just go all in on the fried chicken and get the actor that plays or portrays Colonel Sanders.
Well, that is a rotating cast of characters. So, I mean, then you're opening the door. I was thinking put me in it. Let me play the fried chicken salesman.
You want a cameo
awesome.
now? Come on. You're starting to sound like M. Night, dude.
Hey, from one director cameo to the next. We are definitely not on an even playing field there at all. M. Night, you are much better than me. Rating.
But do you like me?
What do you guys think of this film? Out of 69, I'll start. 42 is where I landed. I don't love this movie. It's got a lot of problems, a lot of issues, a lot of changes, especially in the messaging, like I brought up. But there are some things with the style and with the construction of the family that I can really appreciate. I think the first half of it really rips. So that's where I kind of sit right in the middle, like a 42.
Thinking around the 70% area. So a 48, 49. Kind of same thing. Like there's some issues, I think, after hearing about the book, I think the direction of the film could have went a better way. I do think casting was really good. The actual acting was pretty good for most. So I think 48 is probably a solid score.
Now, Austin, I do have right here, you gave Ender's Game a 21. So in comparison, is that still fit 48?
There's only so much Butterboy can do. So I do think, if I had to choose between the two to be locked in a room for 24 hours and watch, I would obviously pick Knock, but I hope to never be in that situation.
How about just both? Back and forth. Get a little break.
I don't know about that one.
Kody, round us off.
Yeah, so I definitely have the highest score, I think. For me, I think I was surprised by this movie. I did enjoy it a bit more than I expected. I don't know. I've been trying to figure out where I want to put it. I think I'm going to stick it at a 52 out of 69. I think that's a decent spot for it. It's like right on the cusp for me of like, I want it to be like 3.5 stars, but I just don't think it's at that level, but it's like right below it almost. But I enjoy this movie. I would watch it again, honestly. And out of M. Night's catalog, I think it's easily in his top 3, top 5. So I was a fan.
I always do this to you, Kody. 2 movies that you've given a 52. You ready? Elf.
Yeah. Okay.
And The Lighthouse.
Ooh. Nice. Okay. I think The Lighthouse is pretty comparable. One location, kind of weird themes throughout. So good acting. I think that's fair. Probably The Lighthouse is definitely a better movie, like just from a technical standpoint, but I think that's pretty fair.
Right above that, John Wick is 53. So
Yeah.
Which John Wick?
Better movie. The first
Uno.
one.
Okay. Uno.
Yeah, Parabellum would have been. We might have to do that. I really love that movie, but Parabellum's in the 60s for sure for me.
Motorcycles.
Throwing knives, motorcycles, and horses, baby. Can't do anything better.
It's a good time, dude.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Let's jump on over to You Might Also Like.
Who knows? You might like it. It's a killer rush.
Rex, if you're a fan of Knock at the Cabin. Kody, what would you recommend to the people?
Yeah, off the bat, I mean, talking about one location kind of movies in a sense. If you like how kind of, in depth we were here in the cabin, maybe you'll like The Breakfast Club. That's a classic. What about 12 Angry Men? I like that movie.
Bottle movies, essentially.
Yes. 10 Cloverfield Lane. I haven't seen that, but I think you like that one, right, Korbin?
Yeah, and that fits into a very similar idea. That's actually a great recommendation, Kody, having not seen the movie. It's literally Kody, Austin, have you seen 10 Cloverfield Lane?
No, but I want to.
I won't spoil anything, but the premise is a woman wakes up and she's in a bunker, and the man is saying outside the bunker is the apocalypse. Yeah. And then it's from there. Is that real? Is it not? Who knows? He claims to have saved her, and then, movie plays out from there. It's John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I believe, is the two leads of that film. Yeah. Interesting dynamic there. I would definitely recommend it if you like this movie.
It's on my list there, so I might check that out soon because it is pretty similar premise. And then my last one, kind of in the similar category too, is the movie Lock, which is a Tom Hardy starring role. I've talked about it a little bit before, but I think it's a severely underrated movie, and it's basically just Tom Hardy, on the speakerphone in his car for like 2 hours. But it's actually pretty interesting and a pretty good time. So I'd rec those. Lastly, I mean,
is driving in a car count as one location? I guess, right?
I would think so. I mean,
that's a good question.
He's got nowhere else to go.
Carpool Karaoke, famous one location show.
Also, I guess it doesn't really qualify, but Snowpiercer technically is like a one location movie.
Yeah.
It's all in
Gas Train.
Yeah,
that's being really. Like, yeah, this the movie Goodfellas is set in one location. It's set in the city of New York. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's a bad example, but
yeah. You can say
Taxi Driver is one location. It's set in New York City.
Any movie is kind of one location, but also, I mean, if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense, I would actually highly recommend that. I think if you like this movie especially, I think that's undoubtedly M. Night's best. So I'd rec that too.
My rec for M. Night movie would be Signs, because to me, like, thematically, it's the most similar, dealing with ideas of faith, believing, making sacrifices for the betterment of your family. It's very much about a drama and underrated baseball movie. That's what I'll say. Signs.
Shout out Joaquin.
Shout out Joaquin. And then Sunshine is another one. Kody, today, I don't know if you saw the Civil War trailer from Alex Garland.
I did. Yeah.
Sunshine is actually written by Alex Garland.
Okay, interesting.
Directed by Danny Boyle. Alex Garland has written many of Danny Boyle's earlier works, including 28 Days Later. But Sunshine is this one where it's very much like kind of like a science movie where you're kind of like exploring the meaning of life throughout, and then it kind of takes this deep genre twist at the end. It's dealing with similar themes of faith and creation, not necessarily so much as sacrifice, but I think there's some parallels you can garner in like the one location view of the world type thing. It's set on a spaceship, so yeah.
I like that. Underrated sci-fi. I agree.
And Austin, what about you?
Yeah.
Man? What do you want to recommend?
Oh, I will say I'll start with a newer movie. I think it came out July this year. Just watched it around Halloween time. So when I think of Knock at the Cabin, I think suspense movies, and the movie I'm thinking of recommending is called Talk to Me. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard of it. Essentially, it revolves around a mannequin hand, and when you kind of like grab it, it basically invites a demon into your body, and that's what the whole movie is about. And it's very suspenseful, more of a horror movie. Along the same lines of suspense, kind of less horror like, but I would say A Quiet Place. I remember watching it. It's a very suspenseful movie. Yeah.
Talk to Me was definitely a really solid 2023 horror movie. It's directed by these two guys who got their start out on YouTube and have kind of like DIY'd, figured out how to kind of do CGI and effects and worked up from there. And now they're making a feature-length film that was a god honest hit earlier this year. People really went out and saw it. It had a bit of a social media presence on TikTok. The the scene of the hand and the way that was kind of put together was spread and utilized from there. And I have, some issues with like the ideas of like the way social media is kind of existing in that movie, but also not really like being spread in like a modern, it's weird. But it's really it's a cool framing device of a film, and it's pretty unique. And I definitely enjoyed it. I've seen it twice, I think, at this point. So I would recommend people go check it out. And let's move on over to the final question.
All right, listen, I got one last question for you.
Cody, what's your final question?
It's like a fun one. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. Of course, it's going to revolve around my boy Dave Bautista here, but I'm going to broaden it out a lot. So you could do either one, but you can either pitch me your ideal Dave Bautista movie that you want to see, or which kind of movie would you add him into that you think he would be good in, and kind of give you guys some time to think too. I mean, this guy can act. He's a good actor. I think this movie establishes that. He can do action. We saw him do, comic book Marvel stuff. He can do comedy. He's really funny in Guardians of the Galaxy. And like we mentioned before, he says he wants to do other genres. He wants to do rom-coms. So there's tons of opportunity here. I think you can pretty much throw him in anything that you'd want. But I'll throw over to you first, Korbin. Is there anything like specific you want to see him in? Or is there anything you think like he would have been good in that's come out already?
I don't know about like specific things I just want to see him get it like added to, but I love the Denis Villeneuve train, and getting back more into like the thrillers, something closer to like Prisoners would be super sick. Or even, hey, again, David Fincher, shout out. We're going to be talking about him soon, but like, let's have this guy play a serial killer or like a really fucked up person. Cause I think that could be really cool to see like Dave Bautista as like this super menacing evil guy. He plays sincerity super well. I mean, that's what this movie kind of has to lie on, is like, you have to believe this guy. Everything he's saying is truthfully what he means. Drax is like the most extreme version of that, right? Where it's like he's literal in everything he says. Let's get him to be like a super cold-blooded, menacing type in a Fincher movie.
No, I fuck with that heavily, and maybe fingers crossed we see a little bit of that in Dune Part 2. I don't know really what his
true. He is a villain there. The Harkonnens, watch out for him.
Hopefully, Stellan Skarsgård gets picked off early and he becomes the big bad or something. But I would love to see that. Austin, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, we said it earlier in the interview. He wanted to be in a romance movie. Thinking about Drax and kind of what I think Dave of. I think maybe if he replaced Adam Sandler in one of the typical Adam Sandler romance comedies, I think he could play it pretty well. I don't know who the actress would be on the other side.
Drew Barrymore.
I love that. Yeah. 50 First Dates? That would have been perfect.
They can make 100 First Dates with David. That'll be
all right. I like both. I like both sides. I think he does both like good too. Like he's a good actor and he's comedic based. So I'm on board with anything with Dave. That was kind of my overall point. But big ups, Dave. Corbino, what's your
the potential's there for all of it, I think.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna do it all. That's the beauty of Dave's career. There's still so much. What would you guys do if you were in this situation? What would you do? That's my question.
I figured that was coming.
Such a move.
It's difficult because like what's the scenario? I mean, like, am I Daddy Eric here, or is it like I've grown up?
You are one of the fathers. You don't have to like put yourself in the relationship.
Okay.
Like, your family has.
I'm trying to get the full story.
You don't have to pick one. Like you can be either one. You don't. Okay,
Okay.
you're the concussed one. Like I don't know.
Right.
Just, you're there.
Like I said, I think I would have a similar approach to Andrew. Like, I think I would be very, very wary of like, I don't think this is real at all. So I think it'd probably get to a similar point where Dave would cut his throat and I'd start looking around and be like, oh, there's planes falling from the sky and, oh, the cabin's on fire. Yeah, maybe this is real. Maybe, I should die. So I think it would go to the extreme point for myself as well. Pretty similar to the movie.
I'm kind of in a similar boat here. Starting the first one, Redmond dies. What was the tsunami? Yeah, that looked pretty pre-recorded. That's pretty fake. Like, you guys definitely here because I'm in a gay relationship and you hate me, so you're trying to get me to kill myself. Second one goes, what was the second one? The whole disease thing?
Right, yeah, the K9 virus.
It's 2023. We've lived through COVID. That's not fucking phasing me anymore. Try something else. Third person dies. That's the planes falling. Immediately, my reaction was, "Oh, an engineer fucked up. He's losing his job. There's something wrong with the systems. Maybe we got attacked, like some EMP attack, something like that." Nice try there. Then what? Leonard dies, and that's when all hell breaks loose with the lightning and the storm and everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the one that got me. I'm like, oh, maybe they weren't lying. Like, this isn't a pretty bad storm. Like, there's no way this could have just rolled up and we missed it. Like, maybe there's something to this, but definitely like not trusting. More so just gonna let them try to like kill themselves and get my family out of there. Like, if that's what they're gonna do.
I feel like it's just so skeptical too, because they come in like forcefully and like tie them up, and then it's like, oh, but we're actually the good guys.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard, I feel like, in Dave Bautista's group situation to actually convince somebody that they're right, just because of all the kind of outlier circumstances surrounding it. But yeah, I agree. What do you think, Korbin?
I mean, this probably says a lot about me being like a selfish person, but I think if I was put into this position, but I just couldn't do it, I would not. I just wouldn't believe them, like, no matter what they showed me. And if it got to that point of like planes are falling out of the sky, at that point, I'm just like, you know what? If this is the apocalypse, if some force, I again, it's the book thing where it's like, if some force is putting us in this position, okay, go ahead. Like, you clearly want the world to end. And again, like this idea of the apocalypse, like, sure, maybe the rest of the world gets to now go to heaven and like live out there. Like, that's one view you can have. Like, I'll suffer on this planet that's been destroyed, but I'm not going to kill myself just because 4 randos show up and start spouting some nonsense. That's just me.
I think that's fair as well. It's hard to argue against that, but I agree. I mean, even if it did come to the point where
I would say, if maybe again, if the daughter dies, then it's like, maybe I don't have as much to live for and things are different. But like, when you're like, I still have my family here, and that's what they're told. They're told, like, you guys will have to walk the earth alone, like, as the world has ended. It's like, well, I've got my family. I guess you've, put me in that position, but I'm not going to make that sacrifice for something that has clearly chosen me for some extenuating reason that feels wrong.
I like that perspective. It's kind of like, fuck you. You want to end everything? That's your problem. I got nothing.
I'm taking control of my own life.
Yeah,
my own
I like
destiny.
it.
I got an easier one for you guys. So looking at Dave, and his role here, do you think, who would you see replacing him better as, Drax or Dave Bautista, the wrestler, WWE star? So,
ooh, I mean, I think Drax would be more successful in convincing them that it's true. I think he's not believable, but like, you're like, this guy's not a mastermind, right? Like, you don't think he's making this stuff up. I think you buy it. Dave Bautista, the wrestler, wouldn't have let them get away or have ever gotten a gun. I can assure you of that. Nobody would have gotten shot.
That's
Dave
true.
Bautista, the wrestler, would not be messing around. So there's pros and cons to both. What about you, Kody? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough choice. I think Drax, almost, you have to change the role a little bit. I think he's got to be more of a supporting character, just because if he's kind of the lead guy walking in, not understanding like, metaphors and stuff, like some stuff's gonna go over his head, and you're gonna be like, all right, this guy's an idiot. Like, I'm not listening to anything he says. And then on the Batista side, I mean, surely he's going to be like doing Batista bombs on somebody in the room. So
I'd pay to see it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm down. I mean, I feel like it's just going to get a lot more physical, a lot quicker, which may be effective. So I would probably just go, wrestler Dave as the better choice there.
That's all.
I see that. The Batista bomb is a very convincing argument. I will say
it's hard to argue against the Batista bomb.
Oh, you're not going to choose somebody. I'm going to Batista bomb you through this chair right now.
How's that for a sacrifice? The 3-movie mini draft.
Well, it is draft day.
We're doing Dave Bautista flicks.
Staying on theme for the episode, yeah.
Austin, you're our guest. You get to pick the first pick. Kody, do you want the second or third pick? I'll give you the choice.
I think I was second in the Hunger Games episode. I'll take second. Snake. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, Austin, take it away. The first draft, the Dave Bautista movie draft.
Yeah, I think it'd be the easy move to take Knock at the Cabin. So I'm going to take a movie I enjoyed quite a bit. Was kind of hoping to see the next one to see his role kind of grow, but I'm going to take Dune.
That really hurts me, Austin. I'm very disappointed in that. But you know what? I can be very true to myself, and I'm gonna take Dune Part 2, the better
There you
movie
go.
that I haven't seen yet and hasn't come out yet, but I'm banking on it. See me in March, and we'll talk about.
Is that an allowed choice here?
Cody, we do whatever the fuck we want. It's our show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're gonna get 2 killer picks back to back here, so I don't know why you're complaining. You were never taking Dune Part 2.
I guess I should thank you, but
I should have saved that for last, honestly. But
yeah, I wasn't gonna
had to grab it.
My first pick, I feel like this is the easiest one of the bunch. I'm gonna take Blade Runner 2049. I think again, maybe not the most pivotal Dave role, but I think it's by far the best movie he's ever been in. Cinematography's absolutely wild. I love that movie. And then secondly, I already mentioned it in this episode. I'll go Knives Out 2, Glass Onion. For me, I do like this better than the original Knives Out, which is a really good movie regardless, but I thought for the sequel they did something fun, similar to like, oh, just stick everybody on an island and see how it goes. Fun twist, shout out Shyamalan-esque, I guess. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with those 2 picks.
Yeah, that's definitely solid. I'm surprised you didn't go for a little Guardians action, but I guess there is 3 of them, so maybe you're just banking on getting one. I'm gonna take Guardians Volume 1 though with my pick here, Kody.
That's my favorite of the bunch too, so respect. But good pick.
Fuck you for taking Glass Onion, you bastard. Austin, what do you want, man?
I'm gonna third what you just said. My second pick was gonna be Glass Onion.
Oh, okay.
I did enjoy that movie quite a bit. So I guess I'm gonna piggyback Korbin here. He took Guardians 1. I'm just gonna take Guardians 2.
Oh, leaving 3 for Kody.
It's a thumbs up for me.
And then you do get another pick in the snake draft, Austin.
Oh yeah. Thor: Love and Thunder, not a great movie. I'm gonna do, I don't know really what kind of movie you guys can consider this, but I'm gonna take Knock at the Cabin.
I respect it. I think it's a solid, especially in terms of the Dave Bautista performance. It's the best of any of these movies we have said so far in terms of pivotal nature to it. I'm gonna wrap up here, and I could take an Infinity War, but I don't want to go more Marvel. I could jump in and take Volume 3 and really fuck Kody, but no. I'll go for The Boy and the Heron. A small role indeed, but a very powerful and beautiful film from another fantastic filmmaker. So, Kody, is it Volume 3 or Army of the Dead for your last pick here? You Snyder bro or James Gunn it?
I probably should just go Guardians 3. I had also Stuber lined up. I've seen some of it on TikTok. Also, I mean, he's in like Infinity War, so I mean, we could take that, but I'll take a Guardians 3 here. I think out of the Guardians movie, it is my second favorite, so I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, I think that 3 Guardians 3, Blade Runner 2049, and Glass Onion is pretty good little draft there, so I'm happy with it.
Solid list for sure. I think we all did good.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Dave movies, man. Everybody's got a good list. Yeah.
That's true. We could have taken Spectre too. We missed out on the James Bond.
True. I forgot about that.
Moving on to weekly watches.
Karen, honey, what are you watching?
Cody, obviously we're going to be recording, so we're going to save some of the stuff we've talked about, but also it's been a while since we recorded, so we've got lots to hit on. But before we do that, Austin, what have you been into?
I'm going to jump here from video games to books to another movie. So starting now, books. I may have recommended this last time. I cannot remember, but the book called Dragon's Egg. It's sci-fi. It's about planet Earth finding this star with a planet kind of around it, but there's this life evolving on the actual sun, and they experience life at, I can't remember, it's like 1,000 times faster than us. So their species from day one to like them going extinct is like a matter of hours to us. It's a really interesting book to read. There's a book too, and it's really science based. The guy that wrote it actually knows physics and stuff, so it's interesting to read. Also, kind of leaning towards the anime kind of side of things. I started and finished the series Vagabond, which is along the same lines of like Berserk and Vinland Saga. So it's isekai. It's really amazing art. My background right now is Vagabond, so I would recommend that to anybody. Video game, God of War Ragnarok. They just came out with a free DLC yesterday called Valhalla, and I've yet to play it, but I would recommend that game. And kind of the opposite here. Something I don't recommend
Well,
is
Kody loves to do that.
the movie Blue Beetle.
Oh,
I watched that on my flight last week, and the only reason I kept watching is because I literally had no other fucking choice. I had nothing else to do. And I was excited about it, but
to knock out a tougher watch on a plane, it really locks you in. I'll say that. But yeah, Blue Beetle, it's not the best. I mean, it's not of the highest quality. I think there's some fun family stuff there that works for me.
Who's the actor? The
George
actual
Lopez, man.
George Lopez,
yeah, he was the best part of that movie.
I agree.
The movie did
Him
suffer.
and the grandma, I think, are decent. The grandma with like the Gatling gun, I think, was kind of fun too. Yeah.
The movie, it sucks. I mean, it came out during the actors' strike. This kid, Zvokel premieres his first movie and doesn't even get to like say he's in it at all. It kind of sucks. That, whatever. Fucking DC, terrible shit. What else? Anything else? That was quite the list of multimedia recommendations for.
I'm well rounded. That's it though.
You're a man of many colors, many coats. Kody, what do you got?
Yeah, like you said, it's been a while since a normal episode for us a little bit, and I'll pretty much just like cut in half and save for the next step. But off the top, I checked out the Steph Curry documentary called Underrated on Apple TV. I forgot I had Apple TV, so I'm trying to just go through there and watch stuff that I like.
Take advantage.
Just so I'm not wasting my money, But it was actually pretty good. It was mostly like a college, based documentary, which I mean, obviously I'm very interested in. Growing up, I remember watching Davidson making that classic run in the tournament. So it was pretty cool, just like nostalgic stuff for me. I think they could easily do a sequel talking about his NBA career because there's been a bunch of crazy stuff, obviously, with that too. But I'd recommend that if you're a college basketball fan. Past that, movie I checked out, Sharper, which I did draft in our RCR fantasy movie. It was okay. I didn't really like it, if I'm being honest. Story was kind of just basic of kind of what exactly I thought it was going to be. Performances were okay. I didn't really love Sebastian Stan in it, if I'm being honest. And
it's a middling heist-y-ish kind of movie.
Yeah, it's just like
twisty and turvy, and
yeah, it's like, oh, there's a twist every 10 seconds and you're not supposed to see it coming. And then, oh, guess what happens in the last act? Oh, there's a big twist. Yeah, I definitely fucking saw it coming, but probably wouldn't recommend it. A24 is not their best. Past that, checked out The Killer. Finally. It's been a weird thing where I've been trying to mooch off of Jason, my brother's Netflix, but it's the whole new Netflix reprimanding thing where half the time it's saying I don't have access to the account, and then half the time it is. So I finally got access to it. I think I'm just going to get Netflix because I'm just being extremely lazy.
Funny thing, Kody, I've also I was on like a Netflix hiatus for a couple months where I did not go on the service because I was just like, I don't even want to mess around with it. But then I was like, we're doing The Killer. And then there's another movie that I wanted to watch in relation to The Killer. So that's what we've been hinting at all episode.
Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to log into Netflix and it's working.
Yeah.
So for now, hey, my parents' Netflix is letting me use their password.
Yeah, it's weird and choppy. I think Netflix doesn't even understand what's going on, but check out our next episode because obviously we're going to be talking about The Killer in depth. Past that, some other just smaller TV stuff. I finished season 40 of Survivor, just rewatching that. Did get a little bit teary with the fire making challenge. Shout out Cops Are Us, greatest alliance in Survivor history.
Tony.
And then since I finished that season, I was like, hey, let's go binge another Survivor season. So I started watching season 38, Edge of Extinction, which is a fun one. It's actually the last one where they bring back returning players in the modern age, even though they only bring back 4 in the entire cast. Also, Edge of Extinction is that play, which basically means when you get voted out, you're not entirely out of the game, which is usually a very bad construct in Survivor. But in this one, I kind of like it. I think this season is one of my guilty pleasure seasons. It's not good. The winner is fucking terrible. It's one of the worst winners of all time. But I like Wentworth a lot. I like David a lot. So fun characters. But the last thing here, I also started watching Gen V, which is The Boys well, it's not even a prequel show. It's basically just a continuation of the show. I thought it was a full-on prequel. No. It's going out the exact same time as the end of season 3 of The Boys, which I do like. And I've watched 5 out of 10 or 5 out of 9 episodes, however many it is. I've enjoyed it so far. I think it's right in line with kind of The Boys' tone and sort of character-wise. It's got some twists and turns I didn't expect off the bat, which I enjoyed. I assume it will tie in heavily to The Boys season 4. So I'm definitely going to finish that up before the new season releases. But I don't even think you're all the way caught up on The Boys, are you, Korbin?
I am. The reason I
Okay.
noticed that you are on my Amazon account, you must have been rewatching the last season or something there, Kody.
I don't think
what happened?
No,
It was at the top of the list. I don't know, season 3.
I've got my own Amazon account now. So I
Oh,
should know
okay.
that.
Maybe somebody else is watching The Boys on my Amazon. Who knows?
Goes
But
with.
no, I have seen all of The Boys. I watched it when season 3 first came out, and then Mina and I were supposed to do a rewatch, and we got through about like 2 seasons.
Gotcha.
But I do want to watch Gen V, so I will be checking.
I'd recommend it. Yeah, it's good so far. I would definitely recommend it.
For me, I'll get us started here. Godzilla -1. I talked about this in the last episode we did at the top, but I would definitely recommend anybody who hasn't to go check that out. Austin, do you know about Godzilla -1?
Man, I feel like there's so many Godzilla movies coming out recently that I don't even know what the hell's happening.
So this is Toho, the original Japanese studio, their most recent installment of a Godzilla movie. They haven't made one since 2014. So obviously the Warner Brothers like Godzilla versus Kong universe has been going on, and since then they haven't made any movies over in Japan. So this is their first return to the classic figure. It's set in like post-war, like immediately post-World War II Japan, and it is really incredible. I really enjoyed the movie. It's got fantastic visual effects for a very low budget. It's been reported to be like $15 million, but then even the director's been like, yeah, it's less than that. And of course you have currency exchanges and stuff like that. And it looks incredible. It's got a really fantastic story. It's only playing in theaters for a little bit longer, I think. So it might even be out by the time this episode comes out, but recommend checking that one out as well. It's better than I think any of the recent Godzilla movies that America has made. That's for sure. And then on top of that, I'll run through a lot of things real quick. I saw The Boy and the Heron. I did enjoy it. Probably just need to rewatch it to fully appreciate it. I also went and saw Wish, which is the Disney 100 anniversary movie. I saw it in 3D. I fucking hated it. It was bad.
3D.
Yeah, in 3D, dude. It's got Chris Pine as the lead. I think he's interesting. He has some, fun songs, but his character motivations just don't really make a lot of sense. It's Ariana DeBose as like the female lead character, kind of like she's not a princess, but like the main character. There's one song in this movie that was one of the worst things I had ever heard.
Wow.
The song is called Knowing What I Know Now. It's kind of like this. Because the thing, it's like very pandery, like collective, we got to stand up to the man, like teamwork anthem type thing, like done knowing what I know, like, and it is just so bad. I almost walked out, but I was boxed in completely. I couldn't escape the theater, but the children were all around me. Wouldn't recommend it. I also watched this movie called The Sweet East, which is this little indie film that's kind of a love letter to the Eastern Seaboard, basically following this girl who kind of goes on this weird odyssey through these different cities. Jacob Elordi's there, Ayo Edebiri is there, and this really interesting scene. And also Simon Rex has a moment. So she's basically going along and meeting these different strange people who come from different backgrounds, one being like a white supremacist played by Simon Rex, and then Ayo Edebiri is playing this film producer, this film director, and Jacob Elordi is like the star. And basically this lead female character is kind of traveling through the world and experiencing all these weird different sights. It was really interesting. It's shot very interestingly, and there's moments that work really well in some of those scenes that I mentioned, Rex and Elordi, and then there's also some vignettes that are much less successful, I'd say. I also saw the movie Thanksgiving, which is like the horror Thanksgiving movie from Eli Roth. It's a decent, gory horror flick. The kills are interesting, you walk-in freezer kill, axe on, there's the classic stuff, nothing too crazy. The big thing about it is it's set in 2023. It's supposed to be like modern contemporary piece, but I don't feel like it's as reflective about our modern view of Black Friday than it would have been, like 10, 15 years ago when this idea was originally conceived. So I just don't think it quite resonates in that same way. And it was weird. They could have just said it in the past. That would have made more sense to me. And then I will save everything everything else for our next episode, but that's just a little hint of what I've been watching recently.
No Addison Rae mentioned in the Thanksgiving. Come on, man.
He is there. She really doesn't play a huge role. She's just like
Yeah.
the friend of one of the.
She kind of fell off.
Yeah, it's not as bad as He's All That. I will say that.
Probably.
The cast as a whole is not great. Well, the acting is not the best. I will say this about Thanksgiving. I do like the killer's mask. He has this it's the John Smith mask is what it's supposed to be in like the pilgrim outfit. I think that's a really cool character design for a horror villain. So I'll give him that.
John Smith, known killer too.
Directed by the Bear Jew from Inglourious Bastards, Eli Roth.
Shout out.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Austin, so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Pleasure to have you again for this discussion about Dave Bautista in all his glory.
Yeah, love the Dave talk. Definitely will be again another reoccurring guest. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys again.
If you enjoyed the episode, leave a like, follow us on Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you want to be a guest, let us know, and we'll be talking David Fincher's The Killer in the next episode.
Stay tuned. Stay capping.
Peace.
Thanks.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.